one guy that it has proven a lot so far in the conference, Garrett Nussmeier, last year over 4,000 yards, texted you before the show, just said, Aaron, like, here's kind of what I'm thinking show-wise, any other teams that you want to make sure we work in there. You're like, dog, I'm high on LSU. So I just want to give you the floor to put it on wax on how you feel about the Tigers.
Well, listen, I know there's been a lot of discussion about Brian Kelly and is he truly an elite coach, and where would you put Brian Kelly when it comes to ranking coaches in college football? And I've loved Brian Kelly and what he's done in his career. Obviously, going back to what he was able to do at Cincinnati and Notre Dame, and kind of year one at LSU, and I feel like I have to continue to remind LSU fans and fans of college football in general. And at some point, this is going to run out because you'll get to a point where it's kind of aged out a little bit time wise. But he took over a roster 3 years ago that had 36 guys returning. The mass exit after the previous regime was wild. So you're taking over a team with 36 returning guys when Georgia and Bama and Tennessee and all these other teams and Texas, I know Texas wasn't in the SEC at the time, but still, like, that's who you're being compared against. We're returning the majority, like 60 guys, 70 guys. There was a lot of catching up that had to be done on both sides of the football. And then to go in year one to win the SEC West was absolutely incredible. And I know it feels like if you're a Tiger fan, you're kind of just running into a wall right now. Same record year in and year out. You got a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that, rookie of the year in the NFL. Like, why wasn't that year more successful? And I get it's frustrating. No doubt about it. I still believe he is a tremendous coach. He's one of the top coaches in America, and he's going to get things right. And then, you look at the defense side of the football. Baker back for his second season. Mm-hmm. That defense got a little bit better last year, even with some depth issues, especially up front. I think that defense will continue to move in the right direction because I believe Baker is one of the best and premier defensive coordinators in all of college football. And then you look at the offensive side. You have Garrett Nussmeier back, who I believe is if not the best, one of the best top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in the SEC come next season. You're loaded once again at the receiving position. You went out there and got some top guys from Oklahoma and from Kentucky to fill up some needs on the outside. The question is going to be the offensive line. You lose some guys up front. Obviously, you're going to have to replace them. But the fact that you got your quarterback, you got elite playmakers on the outside, I think the defense will continue to move in the right direction. I believe in Brian Kelly. I believe in Baker at the defensive coordinator spot. I think LSU is kind of one of those teams that's sitting back saying, we should feel good about our roster. We should feel good about our quarterback. And I think right now it's just a belief in, do we truly believe Brian Kelly is a good enough coach to get us into the playoffs?
And I'm so glad you said that around just his track record as a head coach and what he inherited at LSU. I think a lot of people see what LSU hasn't done, and they compare him to, well, Les Miles won us a national title. Ed Orgeron won us a national title. Nick Saban won us a national title. And it's like, yes, that's true. But what Brian Kelly took over into where you are now, we had someone call in and leave a voicemail and ask the question, like, hey, is Brian Kelly holding us back? And I'm like, dog, I don't know. It might have been a lot worse if you didn't have Brian Kelly based on where you were when he got there. Like, I'm not so sure Brian Kelly isn't the reason that you're at where you're at now. Like, think if he didn't bring in Jaden Daniels or he didn't bring in Mike Denbrock for that season where they were scoring, felt like every single time they touched the football. Like, if Brian Kelly wasn't there to elevate this team to where they were, I don't know that LSU has the outlook they do on 2025, which you just mentioned it. I think they should feel like they have a chance to go compete for a national title or at least be in that conversation now.
No, I agree. Like I said, it's funny when you look at the SEC right now. I feel like the elite rosters have questions at the quarterback spot, and I know I'm a little bit biased because I played the position, but it's kind of the trigger man. You need that trigger man back there to have success. And Georgia going to be breaking in a brand new quarterback. You would still deem Georgia as an elite roster. Quarterback questions. Alabama elite roster. Quarterback questions. I still go back to Texas, elite roster, brand new quarterback, some quarterback questions that need to be answered. So it's like all the teams that have like these, like what we consider top tier, bunch of 5 stars, when the blue chip ratio comes out, they'll probably be like 1, 2, and 5, somewhere in that range. Yeah. But we have questions about the most important position. You look at Florida, you look at South Carolina, you look at LSU. You kind of say like, okay, well maybe there's some questions at certain position groups, and maybe that as a whole, they're not as talented from a complete roster standpoint, but they got a trigger man. They got a dude we believe in. And I would say those 3 quarterbacks at those 3 spots are probably 3 of the best in the SEC. But what's the difference between LSU, Florida, and South Carolina? I would still say LSU probably has the better roster of the three. So you kind of lean to like if there was one of them that has the elite quarterback, that has a good enough roster, that could be in contention to win the SEC and move on to the playoffs, LSU would kind of be my bet there.
Along with the head coach who, in terms of like the number of games he's coached relative to winning percentage, like it marries up nicely.